Welcome to the Math Record. Today we'll be covering the CCML Algebra 1 Contest 1 2015-2016 Division A. Question 1. Evaluate C minus D, which is in parentheses, minus parentheses D plus 1 minus C plus 1. So we're going to work, since C minus D is outside parentheses, so let's write that one first. Minus parentheses, D plus 1 minus C plus D plus 1. So it's just D minus C plus 2. So that makes negative of a negative is a positive, so that's 2c, negative, which is 2d, and then negative 2. So it's negative 2c minus 2d minus 2 is the answer. Question 1 is pretty basic. Question 2. Alex went to a pet store to buy a cat. The price of the cat she wanted was originally $150. The store was running a 10% off sale. Alex had a 10% off coupon that was applied to the sales price. What percent of the final price was the original price? Round to the nearest percent. So we really don't care about the money, because what we care about is the percentage. So what we're gonna do is it had a 10% off sale. So what we're gonna have is 10%. 10% minus 1 is 0.9. So the next price, if the original price of x, then the sales price is 0.9x, right? Now, 0.9x times the coupon, which is also 10%. It's also 0.9 times 0.9, which is 0.81x. So that would be the next. This would be the original price. This will be the sales price, and this will be the sales price with the coupon, basically. So what this is telling us is that what is the original price compared to the new price? So it will be what's x divided by 0.81x. So 1 divided by 0.81. Use your calculator. 1 divided by 0.81 is 1. It's about 1.23. Well, it's gotta be in percentage. So you multiply that number by 100, and you get 123% as your answer. Which is the answer to question 2. Question 3. How many integers between 2 and 197 inclusively are divisible by 7? So what you do, if it's how many are divisible by 7? So every single 7 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So it's like 7, 14, 21, 28. So every single 7 number is divisible by 7. So you just need to find how many 7 multiples are there. It is less than or equal to 197. Because it might be 197 might be divisible by 7. So using your calculator, 197 divided by 7 is 28. Is about 28.14 something. But the largest integer that is the value is 28. So the answer is just 28. Because it could be 1. X could be 7, because it's 7 times 1, or x could be 2, so 7 times 2 is 14. So it's 7, 4. So it's 7 times 1, 7 times 2, 7 times 3, all the way up to 7 times 28. It's all less than 178. But it's greater than 2, because it starts with 7. So the answer is just 28. It's basically that simple. Question 4. What is the prime factorization of 396,000? So since I already know so it's just 396 times 1,000. Let's factor this number out. Let's since it's even, I'm going to divide by 2. So that's 1, that's 9, and that's 8. And let's divide this one. This one could be 10 times 10 times 10. So this is just 2 times 5. Since there's 3 of them, this is 2 to the 3 times 5 to the 3 for all 3. So that's together as 1. So divide this by 2, and you get a 99. And this one could be 3 to the 2 times 11. So the answer is just 2 to the 5 because there's 3, 4, 5. 2 to the 5 times 3 to the 2, these 3, times 5 to the 3, sorry, 5 to the 3 times 11, which is the prime factorization. So that is just the answer. Okay? Answers to question 4. So evaluate 5. Since they already gave you the operation, I don't know how this is a math question. Just put it in your calculator since it's already contest 1. So it's 3 squared minus 20 minus 2 negative 2 minus 2 times 5 minus 11, which is in parentheses, and 4 squared. And the answer you should get is 7. If you want to do this by hand, you could, but just by saving time, you should just put it in your calculator. Because you could make a math mistake, but a calculator cannot make a math mistake. The only reason you ever get this question wrong is that you plug in the number wrong in your calculator, if you're using a calculator. For what radius is the numerical value of the volume of the sphere equal to the numerical volume of the surface area of a sphere? The volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi radius cubed. And the surface area of a sphere is 4 pi radius squared. So since they both had to be equal, we had to set that equal to each other. So 4/3 pi radius cubed equals 4 pi radius squared. Subtract them from each other. So you kind of get, since we don't need the top portion, we'll get that away. We would need 4/3 pi radius cubed minus 4 pi radius squared is equal to 0. So then we get pi radius squared. Factor that out, we get 4/3 of the radius. 4/3 radius minus 4 is equal to 0. So the radius is equal to 0, or the radius is equal to some kind of number. The radius cannot equal to 0, because then it doesn't really count. So it's going to be 4/3 r is equal to 4, so radius has to equal to 3. So what is the radius will be equal to? The answer is just 3 for question 6. Question 7. A rectangle with integer side length has a base that is 7 units shorter than its height. If the diagonal is also an integer and the perimeter of the rectangle is less than 100, what's the longest length its diagonal could be? So let's say we have a rectangle. Let's draw the picture out. And it says it has integer side lengths. So it has a base that's 7 units shorter than its height. So let's say our height is x, right? So our base is x minus 7. And it says its diagonal is also an integer. And the perimeter of the rectangle is less than 100. So what it is, the rectangle, this x minus 7 is also x minus 7. So overall, this will be 4x minus 14 has to be less than 100. So what it's telling us is that x has to be less than 100. Using your calculator, 100 plus 14 divided by 4 is 28.5. So your x can only go up to 28. So x has to be from sorry. The x has to be from 8 to 28. Because it has to be 8 because you can't have a negative side length, because if this is 7, the length would be 0. So that won't make sense. So it has to be 8. So the smallest integer is 1. And 8 it would be the other answer. Okay? So the height can only be 8 to 28. That's what we know. So we're going to use the Pythagorean Theorem, which states x squared plus x minus 7 squared, which is x squared minus 14x plus 49 is equal to c squared, so we have to square root this. So what, using your calculator, you could just make a table. So what you do is that, kind of just make a table in your calculator, and you just start plugging in points from 8 to 28. So what you do is, let's say this is x, and I'll say square root 2x squared minus 14x, because that has to be in there, plus 49. And then you just plug in all those value inside. So you say 8, 9. What is the longest length of this diagonal can it be? So you want to start with 28 and just go down, because as once you get the first integer, that's gonna be the answer. So that's 28. 28 is 28 already gives you an integer, which is 35. So the diagonal answer is just 35. So you plug in x to 28 here, and you get 35, and that should be your answer. Basically that simple. This question is kind of like a trial and error. So if you just have to plug in every single point from 8 to 28, but since you have a calculator, it's gonna go relatively kind of fast. If you know how to use your calculator, basically. Let A kind of dot circle B equals the absolute value of 3A minus B. Let me zoom in. Hard to see. B minus 3a minus b, absolute value of that, and divide by ab. Determine the value of -2, -4. So you just plug this in, so that's -6 plus 4, absolute value. -2 times -4 is 8. So this is just -2, which absolutely is just 2 over 8. So the answer is just 1/4. So 8 is just 1/4. It's really just that simple. Number 9. Evaluate 2 and 1/4 plus 3 over 7 minus 1 over 4 ninth. So like the case with like number 5, basically just put this in your calculator and you'll get it right. So yeah, 2 and 1/4 plus 3/7 minus 1 over 4 ninth. And you have that as a fraction form. Sorry, I might have put this in wrong. 2.25 plus 3/7 minus 1 plus 4 over 9. Uh, 9 divided by 4 plus 3 divided by 7 minus 1 over 4 divided by 9. And the answer is 27 over 28. Sorry about taking a while. My calculator was not responding. So that's the question like that. It's pretty simple. Similar to 5, the only reason you get it wrong is that you plugged it in wrong. Lucas numbers are a sequence of numbers where the sum of the previous two numbers in a sequence determine the third number. If the first Lucas number is 2, okay, and the second Lucas number is 1, what is the 8th Lucas number? So let's just keep track of the numbers. So let's just write it like this. So the first one is 2, the second one is 1. So the third one, you have to add the previous 2, which is 3. Fourth is 4. Fifth is 7. 6 is 11. And 7th is 18. And 8th is 29. I mean, it is just that simple. I mean, there's nothing you could do about it. Like, it's better to just, like, write it out since it's already 8. Since the number is so small, so you only have to find the 8th Lucas number. It's better for you to just, like, solve it just like that than actually, like, make an equation. Because it's such, like, really small numbers anyways. So, we're halfway through. Question 11. Express as a fraction in the lowest term. So 0.237 repeating. This will I refer to as a repeating decimal. So what you do is you set the variable as x, and you want to get the same variables right here. So what you gotta do is that you gotta multiply by 1,000. Because then you can move it to 3 decimal places over. And then the next repeating will also be 2. So it'll be equal to 237.237. You see how this is repeating after the decimal point? It's also like the same thing. So when you subtract them together, you get 999x, because right here you said 1000 minus 1 equals to 237 minus 0, which is just 237. And these 237, as it repeats, this also repeats as the same number, so it subtracts each other. So it just be x is equal to 237 divided by 999. And you could just use your calculator to see what the what it simplifies to, which is 237 divided by 999, which is 79 over 333, which is the answer. Just that simple. Next question. Question 12. The Northern Illinois broad road of broad, I think, I don't know. Broad of cicadas hatches on a 17-year cycle. Snowshoe hares have a peak year of birth every 12 years. 2003 was the most recent time that Northern Illinois cicadas hatched. If the hares had peaked at a year at 2003, uh, when would be the next time that the cicadas and hatch and hares have the peak year? So what you're gonna do is that since it's every single 17 years and this one's every single 12 years, you're just gonna have to look for a number that's like basically the same thing. So like so it will happen at the 34th year, happens at the 51st, this at the 24, and that's at the 36. So right. So what you gotta do is you have to find the exact same number. So what you're gonna do is this is really simple. You just have to factor these out. 17's already factored out, so that's just 17, and 12 factors out to 2 times 2 times 3. So what you're gonna do is that you're gonna multiply all those numbers together. But like if this was like 18, right, not 17, and this is just 3 times 2 times 2, you're just gonna multiply two twos because that's what you get for the entire thing. You're just gonna get the LCM. Basically. So you gotta get the LCM of 17 and 12, which is just 17 times 12, which is basically 204. So it's gotta be 204 years when they're gonna have a peak. They have a peak year, and when the cicadas hatch. So 2004 plus the 204 plus the 2003 is 2207 as the year, which is basically that simple. You just have to look for the LCM. That's basically all you do, and then you just add to like the initial amount to get the final answer. Question 13. Consider a 6-digit number 7A, 8B, A3, where A and B stand for decimal digits, so it's from 0 to 9. If the if the number is divisible by 33, what is the sum of the possible values for A? So it has to be divisible by 3. Divisible by 3 is 3 times 11. So basically it has to be divisible by 3. If it wants to be divisible by 33, it has to be both divisible by 3 and it has to be divisible by 11. So we gotta have to look for the rules for divisibility for 3 and disability rule for 3 and 11. So basically the I can't say it, disability, disability, you get the point. Sorry about tongue twisters, kind of for me. The numbers had to add up to a multiple of 3. So 7 plus 8 plus 3 is 18. Plus there's 2 A's plus a B has to be divisible by 3. And the disability rule for 11 is basically you add the alternating terms and then subtract add alternating terms and then subtract the other alternating terms to get the answer. So what you do is you add 7 plus 8 plus A, so that's 15 plus A. And then you subtract A, subtract B, and subtract 3. So you get minus A, minus B, and minus 3. Has to be an 11 multiple. So this gets 15. No, that's 12. Because 15 minus 3 is 12. And the A's cancel out. So 15 minus B has to be an 11 multiple. So that's basically what we have for these. So those are the divisibility rule for 11 and 3. So if the numbers, what is the sum of all possible values for A, basically? So is A and B has to be a number from 0 to 9. So you kind of just like start testing combinations. But you could just focus on 12 minus B over 11 because that's the point you want. Because B can only be from 0 to 9. So the only possible value that it's going to get is that if this is either 11 or this is equal to like 0. You can't get this to 0 because then you have to subtract 12, and B has to be a single digit number. So B could only be equal to it has to equal to 1. Because like the numbers for B is equal to 0 to 9, and the only one that can make a multiple of 11 is 1. If B is 1, then 12 minus 1 is 11, and M minus 11 is just 1. So basically, it's just like that. So that's all you had to do. Just to make sure I didn't make any math mistake. 12. Okay, which I didn't. So if B is 1, what is the sum of all possible values of A? So B has to be equal to 1. So that's what we know. So if B is equal to 1, let's cancel out the bar portion. I need some room. Okay. And that tells us that 19 plus 2A divided by 3 has to be an integer. It has to be a multiple of 3. So can A be 0? A cannot be 0. Can A be 1? A could be 1. Can A be 2? That's 4. That's 13. Nope. Can A be 3? 6. That's 25. Nope. Can A be 4? Which is 8, 27. So 4 works. It looks like every single, like, after that. So add a 3 is 4. Add a 4 is 7. Add a 7 here is 10, which kind of it's a double digit because which doesn't work, so it has to be a single digit. So the only possible answers is 1, 4, and 7, which is for the what's the sum of all possible values for A? So these are all the possible values for A. So that's 1 plus 4 plus 7, that's 5, and that's 12. The answer is just 12. Pretty interesting question, but not really I guess it's difficult you don't know the divisibility rules. Sorry if I've been mispronouncing it. Uh, vocab is hard for me. In the diagram to the right, a square is inscribed in a circle. Find the ratio of the square's area to the circle's area. So basically, let's just draw this picture out. So we have a square. Sorry if the picture is not the best, but basically, let's divide this into fours, right? So we know, let's just label the square as side length A, right? So the area of the square, I'm trying to write S. The area of a square is equal to x squared. So we already know that. So a diagonal of a square is equal to x times square root 2. So half of the diagonals, which would be the radius, right, would technically count as x square root 2, and half of that is just half. So as x square root 2 over 2. So the area of a circle is pi radius squared. So it's pi times x squared times 2 because the radical is squared, so that makes 2, and then 2 squared, which makes 4. So that just makes so the area of a circle is x squared pi all over 2. So that's the area of that. So find the ratio of the area of the square versus the circle. So it's just x squared divided by x squared pi over 2, which is just the reciprocal, so just 2 over pi. And the x squared terms cancel each other. So this is the answer. Usually I write like pi as like 3/4 of like a square. So sorry about that, but if you just want to write it like this, it also works too. Like if they understand it's a pi, it's a pi. Question 15. 100 students were surveyed regarding their opinions about azaleas, begonias, and carnations. Of the students surveyed, 32 liked azaleas, 42 liked begonias, and 16 liked at least 2 of the flavors. 2 liked all 3, and 8 didn't like any. How many liked carnations? Okay, so let's make a Venn diagram. So we have azaleas, begonias, and carnations. Begonias and carnations. So what can we really put into here? So 30 like Azels, can't do anything about that. Begonia, 16 like at least 2, and 2 like dot 3. So 2 like dot 3 right here. And 8 didn't like any. So there's 100 students, and so this one has all these circles had to add to 92, or the sections of the circles. So basically, we want to find the amount of carnations. So we need to find this entire circle. So basically, let's just call the circle A and circle B and circle C. So let's add circle A, B, and C. Um, which basically is this amount plus this amount. So this overlaps, and then so then we have an extra section right here. So we have an extra section right here. We'll mark this as 1. Actually, we'll mark this as X. So there's this overlapped once. This overlapped once. And then we have this one plus, and then we have this one. So this is overlapped here, here, and this overlapped again. So we have this section is overlapped twice, and this overlapped once. Plus C, plus the 8, minus those overlap sections, minus the overlap, I'll call it O, is equal to 100, right? So basically, we want to look for carnations. So the people that liked A is 30. Using your calculator is 32. The people that like B is 42. We don't know the. We want to find the find C, the people that like carnations. We add 8. So far we have 82, and we need to minus the overlap. So the people that like all 3 is 2, so you minus 2 from there. And the people, and it says right here, 16 like at least 2 of the flavors. It says at least 2, so it's either 2 or 3. So this is 2, this is 2, this is 2, and this is 3. So this one adds up to 16. So you just subtract 16. So all those are, so that cancels out all the overlaps. So that's 64 plus C is equal to 100. So 100 minus 64 is equal to 36. So carnations is equal to 36. Because Azel's total was 32. B is 42. And the overlap was equal to 18. So you kind of just get them together. So pretty interesting Venn diagram question. But if you just have all your information, you kind of get it right. Okay, number 16. A snail set out traveling west at 5 millimeters per hour for 1 hour. If it travels due south at 5... Oh, so let's just draw this out. So it went 5 millimeters per hour for 1 hour, so it went 5. And it went south 12 millimeters per hour for 3 hours, so it went 36. And then it travels due west again at 5 millimeters per hour for 2 hours, so it goes here for 10. So finally, the snail travels directly back to a starting point at 13 millimeters per hour. So from here, it has to go back here. So what was the snail's average speed for the entire trip? So basically, we gotta have to find the distance. So it's 10 plus the hypotenuse. So this just makes a triangle, because if you move this down, you kind of get here. You kind of move this over here, you get here. So you make a right triangle, basically. So it's 10 squared. 10 plus 15, so it's 15 squared. Plus this length, which is 36, so that's 36 squared, and you square root to get the length of the hypotenuse. So 15 squared plus 36 squared, square root is 39. So this is the entire length that he traveled along that diagonal is 39 at 13 millimeters per hour. So basically, how much is it traveling? It's traveling a total of 10 plus 5 plus 36 plus 39 all over. So that's the total distance traveled over the time. So the time is 1 hour and 3 hours and 2 hours, and it has to go 39 millimeters and in 30 millimeters per hour. So that takes 3 hours plus 3 more hours. So that's 10 plus 5 plus 36 plus 39 gets you 90. and you get 1 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3, which gets you 9. So the average speed is 10 millimeters per hour. Okay. Question 17. This is what I refer to as an infinite radical. So like what we did with the decimals, just substitute as a variable. So x square root 6 plus square root 6 plus square root 6, etc. Basically what you do is x is equal to, you find out where it's repeating. So 6 plus, you see it's repeating right here, so you just put an x there. So then you x squared equals 6 plus x. So 6x squared minus x minus 6 is equal to 0. This factors out to x minus 3 and x plus 2. Since x cannot be negative, it has to be x equals to 3. So the answer is just 3. Basically that simple. Now question 18. If x is 0.5% of y, then what is y? Then y is what percent x of x? What percent of x? So x, let's just write it as variable, is something percent of y. So we have to put it in here. So it's 0.5%. So it's 99.95. So that's what it is. So basically just divide it by 100 and you subtract by 100. So 0.5 divided by 100 and then 1 minus that number. And that's what you get. Sorry, I didn't write it in proper. 0.995x. Sorry, the first answer was wrong. You just have the percentage divide by 100 because that's what you get to decimal form. And then 1 minus that number is equal to y. So now we just have to find the coefficient if it's in front of y. So divide 0.95 from both sides. 1 divided by 0.995. So 1 divided by 0.995 is equal to sorry, I wrote that wrong. Question 18. If x is 0.5% of y, then y is what percent of x? So basically it's 0.5% of y, divide by 100, 0.5%, divide by 100 to get it to decimal form. So that's 0.005 of x is equal to y. So then you have to get this to the other side, so you just divide, you get it to 1.005, which gets you 1 divided by 0.005, which gets you 200. Since 200 is the decimal version of the percent, which you have to multiply by like 100 to get the percent right here, multiply this by 100. So now you just have to add 2 more zeros. So you're going to say this is 20,000%. It kind of looks like another zero. Sorry about that. Percent. 20,000%. Okay. Question 19. Interesting fact. The largest common multiple of 13,824,000 and 6,174,000 is 4,741,632,000. What is their greatest common factor? If you have a calculator, you kind of just do this in your calculator. So your number, you factor 13,824,000, and you get 2 to the power of 12 times 3 to the power of 3 times 5 to the power of 3. And then you kind of factor the other number, which is 6174000, which gets you 2 to the 4 times 3 to the 2 times 5 to the 3 times 7 to the 3. So the greatest common factor is that you look for the numbers that like have in both sets. So you have 2 to the 4, the lowest amount of 2s, 3 to the 2, and 5 to the 3. So that gets you 2 to the power 4 times 3 squared times 5 to the 3 is equal to 18,000. That's one way to solve it. Another way to solve it is that there's a concept called if you have two numbers, let's call it number 1 and number 2, right? Number 1 times number 2 is equal to the GCF, the greatest common factor, times the least common multiple. So if you have these two numbers, right, you just put it in your calculator. So you put it at 13,824,000 times 617,400. Multiply those two together. You got a really large number, but you don't care. And then you divide by 4,741, 632,000. And you get 18,000 also as your answer. It's a pretty cool property for you to know. So if you want to know, that's how you do it. When Kyle sorted his baseball cards into rows of 5, he found out that the last row has 2 cards short of a full row. When he resorted his cards into rows of 6, he found it that once again he has 2 cards short of a full row. When he sorted the cards for a third time in rows of 8, he found out that he still had 2 cards short of a full row. If he had more than one card, if he had more than one card, what's the maximum number of cards can he have? So I mean minimum number of cards he have. So this is basically like a remainder question. So we gotta see. So let's find out how many cards he kind of has. We have 5A, the total amount of when there is total amounts of x. And you have that rows, but this one's too short. What you gotta do is if this is A, the equal amount, so A times x, the 5x, the 5 rows times the A is equal to this total amount if this actually had that number, but then you have to subtract this last row. So of that A, this would just be called A minus 2. So you're gonna have to minus A. Of the 5A, you're gonna have to minus 2. So you're gonna just minus 2, basically, and that's how you do it. So the first number is 5A minus 2, and the second number, you use the same process, rows of 6, but you have a different variable because it's not equal to A now, because maybe it's now like B, okay? And he found out that he was 2 rows short, 2 cards short of that row. So when he sorted the rows for a third time for 8, was 8C, he also found he has 2 rows. So what's the minimum amount of number? Because these all had to equal his total amount. His total amount is x. Alright? So we're going to have to say 5A is equal to 6B, and 5A is equal to 8C, and 5A and 6B is equal to 8C. So what does this look like? It has to equal to a 5, a 6, and an 8. So you kind of have to look for the LCM. So you have to look for 5. This one's 3 times 2. And this one's 2 to the third. So what you're going to have is that you have to have 2 to the third times 2 plus, 2 to the third times 3 times 5. So that is our amount. So that's 8 times 3 times 5 is 120. So our value is 120. So let's say we have 120, right? But A is 120, but since they're minus 2, we gotta take that 2 from away, so that makes 118. Because 120 is like when it's perfect, right? So if you put that into 5, it's gonna be, if you divide this by 5, you put into 5 rows, so you divide by 5, it's gonna have, every single row is full, so none of them are short. So since they're short by 2 for every single row, and these are all multiples of those numbers, you just subtract by 2, so you get 118. So we want to see if that's correct. So if you put 118 into rows of 5, you kind of get 23 rows, and you're gonna have the last. I mean, you had put in rows of 5. You have 23 numbers in each of the rows, and you have 3 left over. So you're missing 2. And if you have 118 divided by 6, right? you have 1, that's 58. 58, so that's 9, so 19, so that's 54. So that's 4 left over, and you need minus 2 because you need 6. Um, you need 6 for it to like to make like a full set, you know. So basically, and if you have 118 divided by 8, and that's 1, and that's 38. So that's 4, that's 32. So that leaves a remaining of 6, but you need 8. So that's also minus 2. So that's also true. So all these are true. So the answer is just 118. Basically how you show it. Just get the LCM of the 3 numbers, which is LCM of 5, sorry, of 5, 6, and 8, which is 5 times 2 to the third times 3 to get 120. And you subtract from that, you're 2 short, so you minus 2 short, which is 18, 118. So that's how you get the answer. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next math record.